So this is a great webinar to kick the year off, just sort of talking about some of the major trends that we're seeing as we work with customers and data and all that sort of stuff. So it's a nice, fun launch into the year.
Yeah, when we put these together, I'm always reminded of the Bill Gates thing that a lot less happens in 1 year than you think, and a lot more happens in 10. And the trends are there, and they kind of just are happening while we're not really paying attention, but they're happening.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Okay, so so welcome everybody. Today we're going to talk about the 7 emerging data and enterprise integration trends in 2022 based on what we've been seeing over the last couple of years. So first of all, let's introduce ourselves. So I'm Don. I'm one of the founders of Save Software. I'm doing this since the beginning with the great guy I'm with today.
Well, thanks so much, Don. My name is Dale, and I'm also the other co-founder. And we've been at this, I think I'm losing track, Don, but it was in 1993. So we must be in our 28th year or something like that. Or maybe it's a 29th year now. Woo.
Yeah,
yes.
I know. Where does time go, eh? Just incredible. Yeah.
We've seen a lot of things come and go, and so it's exciting to share with the audience today some of the stuff we're seeing brewing right now.
Yeah, and it's still fun, so that's a great thing. So Dale, to kick us off, I think you and Elizabeth are going to walk us through this.
Yeah, go for it, Elizabeth. Tell us how to work this.
Okay, so no one hit send yet, but when we say go, everyone get ready in that chat panel in the Go to Webinar tab, and everyone type in what your biggest data challenges are over this past year and moving forward, what you see those being. And then when we say go, everyone hit send at once, and we'll see a chat storm of all of those answers come in. So we'll give everyone a few seconds here to type in your responses.
This is where Don, you and I could sway the answers by kind of dropping clues, but we probably shouldn't do that.
I'm tempted. You know me, Dale. I'm like, oh.
I'm as tempted as you are. I got so many things I want to tell them to type, but I'm not going to do it.
That's right. That's right.
So we're hoping you can give us some good insights and share with everybody else that's on. We got about 100 of you right now, and it could be quite a storm when Elizabeth counts us down. So how fast do our audience type, do you think, Elizabeth? Do they need a few more seconds?
I think pretty fast. I think everyone's probably got it typed in now.
Okay.
I'm confident.
So what happens? So, can you count them
I'll
down?
Count down 3, yeah. So 3, 2, 1. Okay, everyone send.
I see a good one, Don. You know, date times. There isn't a release in FME that goes by without some kind of improvements around date times, and you'd think that this data type would be understood by now, but boy, it's hard.
Yeah, like I can remember us even when we started doing date times. How hard can date times be? Oh boy, I mean, there's between all the different formats and time zones and daylight savings versus standard. It's pretty complex. Yeah.
And there's no shortage of bad dates out there either.
There's no shortage of bad dates, right? Like,
not just in Indiana Jones movies.
No, that's right. If you get, if you get 4/2/2, is that, year, month, day, or year, day, month? And the answer is depends where you are.
Yeah, lots of things coming through about bad, basically invalid data, missing values, bad data types. Data that's out of spec, data quality, basically, Don, and that's been a theme we've seen too.
Yeah, and that's something that every organization works to. It's a constant thing. Data goes bad on its own. If you have customer data, then just letting it sit there, customers move around. It's one of those things you have to constantly be on to keep up to date, and it's impossible. It'll never be perfect, so don't ever wait for it to be perfect. And it's safe. We have amazing tools, of course, for data, and we're constantly, looking to improve our data. And it's one of the big uses of FME, worldwide. And so when you look inside, so yeah, absolutely. So.
Well, this is a treasure trove of information that the audience has shared with us. So thank you so much. I see someone hinting at this idea, Don, of kind of metadata around what data sets are used in which FME workspaces. And that's something that we've been thinking about. And I'm going to just go off track here a little bit and talk about how we realize that an FME data ironically, data is a second-class citizen, and one of the ways of making it a first-class citizen in our, transformation in FME is the first-class citizen, the data is sort of second-class. And we have some plans in place to make data first-class, and one of those things would be to give reports about what data is used where.
Exactly. And that's huge value to organizations, Yeah, because then if you have a data set, you're trying to determine the value of a data set. Well, if you don't know where it's used, it's pretty tough to determine the value of it, right? So, and lots of stuff on integration and automations, and security is another theme I see. So great, awesome, really good stuff. So those comments there are huge value to us as we, the never-ending stress, and work to make FME better and better and better, right? So that's great. So
we may be back in touch with some of you based on your comments. So thanks so much for sharing, and I guess we'll get the show on the road.
Absolutely. So so here we go. Okay. Yeah, so all about data. Of course, businesses use data to make decisions, and the businesses that can get the most value for data are the ones that are going to win the marketplace. If you can get some data, make decisions quickly, and leverage it, then you're going to make better decisions, and you're going to do better in the marketplace.
And so data integration is really the process by which you transform all that data that's lying around, often in different places, and you bring it together to get you meaningful information so that you can fuel your decision making. And that's what we're so excited to provide, that piece of the food chain.
Yeah, because often a decision requires data from multiple systems. And so being able to pull data from one system is less and less sufficient in order to make the best decision. And so, a little bit about us. We've been around since, Dale's 28 years, 20, something like that. So 25 years plus for sure. And we have organizations around the world using FME, 10,000 plus. It doesn't matter what language or character set you're using, we can handle it. We have an amazing partner network that work to support FME, provide services and support, and so it's really a great network of people who are really passionate about data.
And so we were recognized again last year in the Gartner Magic Quadrant for data integration tools. We're down in the group there on the left-hand side, and we're really quite, I guess, humbled by being in such lofty company, and excited to learn from Gartner and learn how we can provide better value to all of you, and to receive this recognition.
And we're a niche. We've been identified as our strength being spatial data, and we're going to talk about why we're pretty excited about that. And of course, we're working to move up and to the right from release to release, and so lots of exciting things to enable us to move up and challenge some of those other companies for sure. And so this is the platform. This is the FME platform. So now when we talk about FME, we talk about the entire platform. You build your data workflows on the desktop in a world-class editing tool that enables you to do it visually. And then you can move it to server, where now you can build schedules, you can build automations, you can build no-code Fme Server Apps, you can plug it into high-velocity data streams, and again, all with with no code. So between those two things, we have the complete integration solution. Fme Cloud is where you can easily deploy Fme Server into the cloud, so then you can easily integrate cloud services, connect with cloud data stores, and also you don't have to procure the hardware. You can just change the size and things like that. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well. And the brand new Fme Cloud interface, I believe, goes live today. So that's kind of
wow.
So that's a big story. So check that out. And if not, I believe it's today. It might be tomorrow, but anyway, it's imminent.
The 18th sounds familiar, and it is indeed the 18th.
It is. So
So here's kind of our menu of things we're going to browse through today, so you can take a peek at that. And Don and I will be talking through those and looking at how we see them evolving this year and maybe in the next years to come. and what the implications could be. So let's go after number one.
Yeah, so the explosive growth of data. So this is, when Dale and I started this, a large data set was on a floppy disk. I'll remember that for sure. And some of you might remember there were special tools, PK zip, that could span multiple floppies. Now data sets are measured in, billions of rows, and so over time, Fme has evolved to be able to process more and more of this data. So we're going to talk about how data is growing and what we're doing to enable you to process these bigger and bigger data sets. So every company to be successful needs to have some luck, and as some folks have said, you got to be good to be lucky. And our solution, our choosing data integration way back in 1993 was a great decision in looking back, because data is just becoming more and more important, and the whole world now relies on data. So if we look at the data growth, you can see this is according to the IDC. This is not cumulative. This is new data created per year in zettabytes. So there you go. You can see the amount of data that's available to all of us, and clearly organizations that can process and leverage this data are going to do better, make better decisions, more informed decisions than those who aren't. But this is quite the challenge for sure. Okay.
And so we actually have been working very hard for actually a very, very long time. I think basically the length of time of this graph, well, even before that, but seriously, the last 7 or so years to really change, or I guess augment our architecture with a kind of a parallel one for handling high data volumes. Fme has always been a very flexible tool, and that allows it to solve all kinds of interesting problems. But there used to be a price to pay for that flexibility in terms of memory usage and runtime. And so if you take a look at our history here, if you go back to 2016 for this particular problem, we were using a lot of CPU, and then with time we started using less CPU, and then more memory, and then most recently, Don, I got to go back. It turns out I think it's Miller Lite that has the great words. It both tastes great and it's less filling. So that's where we've kind of landed now. But the data volumes that we've got are so much higher that it requires us to have put this effort in, and so we're pretty excited to look into some of the things we've done and the implications.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny now. Dale will talk a bit about this bulk processing, but now when you use Fme and you're in this bulk processing mode, now that's the expected behavior. And every once in a while, in the older Fmes, you would hit some of what was our traditional speed, which we used to think was so fast, and now it's like, oh, I just left. So why don't you talk us through this bulk processing, Dale?
Yeah, and it's interesting, as Don says, I think it was Wayne Gretzky who said that actually you got to be lucky to be good, and you got to be good to be lucky. But we were fortunate in that in, I think, 2007, we did a big effort to support point clouds, or LiDAR, in Fme. And the data volumes there were unlike anything we'd ever seen before. So we invented a subsystem for handling that, and many customers routinely run billions of point cloud rows through Fme in reasonable time. And one of our customers in Sweden, actually, the Sweco folks, Ulf Månsson in particular, started to notice that he might transform some traditional processes into point cloud operations and get it done way faster. And we thought, wow, there's something there. And so we began to look at how we could take that amazing high data volume subsystem and turn it into something that could just be used without customers knowing for just normal, boring CSV, shapefile, whatever kind of data. And that's what we call bulk processing. And so the implications are massive. So you can see here, and this is some of the improvements in Fme 2022, that things like filtering are taking, as Don actually was, when we were looking at these numbers, that means it's actually less than half the time that it used to. So, so if it used to take 2 minutes, it's going to take less than 1 now for some of these kind of filtering operations. And you can see all these different kinds of improvements that there were. You can go to the next slide as well. All over the place, there's just very, very large improvements. And we've done a a detailed analysis of the 500 or so transformers in FME, how many of them are now supporting bulk data, and it's now more than half. That's a huge jump up from FME 2021. So in general, you're going to be able to handle much, much larger data volumes. You know, Don, on the weekend, I was horsing around with a data set that had 37 million, well, actually, it was a total, double that, so 74 million rows that I was doing some processing on. I was able to do a point on area overlay without really any memory usage in 20 minutes on 37 million points and 37 million polygons, and that's running on a actually an older Mac Mini, so not even very powerful of a machine. And so yeah, maybe 20 minutes is too long, but we can definitely do better. So here's a statistics example where that's the graph we were looking at before. And so FME is now 5 times faster than it was in 2021.2 and using 5% of the memory. So long ago, Don, some of the customers used to tell us that FME stood for ferocious memory eater. And that, I think we can retire that name now.
Yeah. And the thing that's super exciting is if you use FME, you don't have to change the way you use FME. We've done this completely behind the covers. And it just automatically is using bulk mode, and as a user, you don't even know. It just happens faster, right?
Yeah, you just in some scenarios might be surprised because you'll think maybe it didn't work because it's done so fast. And I'm not even joking. Some scenarios are like that now. So all of this is to address that trend of the enormous data volumes, and we do recognize that that even with what we've done, the volumes are so great that solving these problems on a desktop alone might not be optimal for many scenarios. And so Don, talk us through what the other alternative is, or how, it's not really the other, it's sort of both and.
Yeah, that's right. The only last thing I want to say, Dale, is we talk about 5 times faster than FME 2021.2, but FME 2021.2 was the fastest FME ever. Like, look at compared to 2017, which those were the old days where, you know, it was, this thing was around 2,000 seconds, and now we're down to like 68 or whatever that number is. So yeah, so you know, so that's you know, fantastic. So the other thing is so we're making the engines as fast as we can, but the other thing we're doing is we're making it easy and for you to process even larger data volumes by making parallel processing really easy to engage in a way, again, in a no code environment. So by there, sometimes you have data sets that are, you know, naturally divided. They could be divided by state, or they could be divided by tile. And by being able to take advantage of that natural separation or division in the data, you can now spray that out across multiple engines to get even more performance. And the other thing we've done, of course, is we've added the whole idea of pay for work that's done. So you don't buy individual engines, you buy in server, you buy CPU time, and it's irregardless of how many engines you actually, it's regardless of how many engines you actually spray that across. So here's what it looks like in automations. You simply create this thing called a split merge block, and what that does is there's one message that comes in that triggers the block, and the block guarantees that everything within that block can run in parallel, and only one message will come out. So it'll actually wait until all the work inside the split merge block is done, because often you might have a big automation where you have a whole bunch of things, do this in parallel, and then when it's done, now do some other work. And it might be, you know, you do some things and then you do another block of processing. So this whole split merge is really, you know, really exciting. And you can see in this example here that we do for testing, there's 930 jobs. And if you had 900 engines, you know, you could do them in parallel. If you had 10 engines, then it would do 10 things at once. It would take longer, but and the key again is at the authoring side, you don't have to worry about how many engines you have underneath. It's just going to guarantee that you're going to get the same result, and the more engines, the faster you're going to get your result. And so
Don, you know that example? Yeah, that was your 1,000 engine example.
Yeah, so for the World Fair, which we did last year, we created an example, and the goal was, it was a challenge between the Zipster and the Lizard to do a year's worth of processing in an hour. And so we cheated a little bit in the sense that the first thing the lizard did, knowing that every engine is faster, is he switched from the previous release's engine to the new engine because he knew he was going to get a speed up there that was significant. And then the next thing that he did is he deployed a massive Fme server with 1,000 engines, broke up the job as we have talked about today, and was in fact able to get the the thousand hours, or the year's worth of work in this case, down to 1 hour. So that was pretty exciting. And of course, with Fme Server, there's two processing. There's a traditional approach where you buy engines, and if you buy 10 engines, that means you can do 10 things at once. And then we have CPU usage pricing, in which you just pay for the work, the CPU time that's done. So if an engine's running but it's not doing work, you're not paying for it. You're only paying for the CPU that is used. And in this case, and that's what we used for that previous example, and we had some funny thing where we showed, well, if you bought 1,000 engines, it would cost you like $1.6 million. But the actual processing cost was on the order of like 2,500 and something. But this is really gives organizations the ability to be flexible and to scale up, scale down, and not have to worry about having engines sitting idle. Yeah. Okay, so some of the benefits, of course, now you can engage many engines. The engine continues to get faster, release after release. But now you can also engage many engines to even take that processing to the next level. Data volumes are just exploding. And yeah, and this really, those two things together, enable you to do things that before were impossible. I remember, we talked with a user, just even with engine, and they would say, yeah, I got my new FME, and I used to run a job and go get a cup of coffee and come back, and it was, I would be able to watch it finish. And now I would run a job, and I came back the first time and it was done, and I thought something must not have worked, because there's no way it could have finished that quickly. So yeah, so that's the first one that we're pretty excited about, and do contact us if you have large data sets and let us know how we can help. Yeah.
So, Don, I mentioned about that example I was playing with on the weekend with the 37 million points and areas. We're going to do a bunch of experiments using split merge block, because if we can figure out how to partition that data fast, then we should be able to spray it out over maybe your 1,000 engines and get that overlay done in whatever 20 minutes divided by 1,000 is.
Yeah.
And then basically when the last one is done, we can take all the intermediate results, all the pieces that came out of all those, and then merge them back into one big resulting file. And so anyway, we're pretty excited about seeing that. And so watch this space for the results of the team's experiments in the weeks ahead. But yeah, and aside from the data volumes, so much of that data has a spatial component in some way or another, and all over the place, even applications that we haven't really thought of as being around the area of location are seeming to support that in some fashion or another. So spatial has not gotten less important for sure.
Yeah, and this graph, again, no surprise, shows that spatial data continues to grow, as all data does, and so super super exciting for us, being that that's where we started, and spatial data is is growing, and we're also seeing its importance grow in the enterprise, which is really great for us, because as we're expanding from spatial data and beyond, we'll always keep focused on our niche, but it's becoming more important to the enterprise. We're starting to see big vendors also start to add support for spatial data. Snowflake, more and more of the Amazon databases are adding support for spatial, and we're going to see other vendors. Postgres, of course, with PostGIS has been one of the preeminent ones, and the ones that I really love. And then you can also see tools, Tableau and Click and many more. So this is a really exciting space to watch. And if you're out there and you're going to pick an enterprise integration solution, boy, I think you really need to look and make sure that you make sure that it engages spatial data. And yeah, and this is just some of the types of spatial data, Dale. So we'll talk this.
Yeah. So we've been on a journey at SAFE since the beginning, and the world has seemed to create interesting and new places for spatial data to live and be stored and to be applied. But that graph there on the lower right kind of gives a story of our journey over the years. And some of those data types that we added pretty early, like 3D and BIM in 2005, 6, 7 in there, It took a long time till they became ubiquitous and things customers really relied upon, at least in large numbers. And sometimes I guess we've been a little bit ahead of the industry. And I kind of wonder, our next topic is going to be about augmented reality, but we certainly have been investing in that. And I guess as you move to the right on this graph, you need all those data types to the left in order to make the whole thing work. And so combining, I'm always amazed how our customers are sort of alchemists that mix all these different kinds of data to create gold, Don. They create gold by mixing this stuff.
Absolutely. And you know, spatial data is more than points, lines, and polygons. Certainly you can do some analysis, but to really get the value out of spatial data, as Dale mentioned, in these leading applications, like we're going to talk about in a second, you need to be pulling from multiples of these and understanding multiples of these, be able to, you know, combine one with another to extract information that's not just in one data set. So that's truly what, you know, separates us from all the other vendors. So yeah. So, and here are just some of the other things. Talk about this, Dale.
Yeah, so there's never a new or never a shortage of places, and this is just a sampling that I talked with the team and put together, but we're in the early days of trying to support Airtable. Out of curiosity, if there's any customers on this that would be interested in trying Fme with Airtable, let us know. We're looking for some beta testers there when we get going. But they have location in Airtable even, and Airtable, for those that don't know, is kind of like a Microsoft Access, but in the cloud world. And enterprises use this thing. It's very, very straightforward, easy to use, and as I mentioned, has a location aspect to it. Unfolded Studio spun out of Uber and is now owned by Foursquare, and we do support that as a destination and source for spatial data. High data volumes in there. The open API side, Don, you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we're really excited about this. What this one does is, for REST APIs, you can now query the endpoint and find out what are the methods I can call, what are the, you know, the HTTP operations I can call, what are the parameters. And so by leveraging that during authoring time, you can really reduce the cognitive load on the person who is calling these REST services. And so we're going to be engaging with that. Our Fme Server REST API will support that, so people talking to that can be able to use open API tools to be able to call into us. So it's really going to lower the bar. Right now, you can call any REST API with Fme, but it requires you have another window open and you're understanding the HTTP operations and things like that. So yeah, that's really an exciting initiative.
And then on the right-hand side, digital twins have been talked about for many years. I remember actually at an Esri conference being introduced to the topic many, many years ago. And there are becoming more and more platforms now that are coming out around this, in particular Bentley's iTwin, and Autodesk has a thing called Tandem, and we're looking at how we can support those. So there's that's just a small sampling, but one thing about all of these, Don, is that all of these are actually cloud services and are out, the data is out there and not on-prem. And so that looks like it's also a trend that's buried in this that I didn't notice until right this second. Yeah,
no, it's really, really exciting. So the next topic, Dale.
Yes, on augmented reality. So, this is an area that we have been kind of flirting with. I'm losing track of how many years. It's got to be 4 or 5 years we've been doing something or another with this, and the technology and the platforms and our software and everything just continues to improve and improve and improve. And it's kind of, I think, sort of a sleeper bit of functionality that a lot of our users and customers don't fully know or understand, that we have so much value we can bring to the table. And it doesn't actually cost, if you already are an Fme customer, all of this stuff is not going to cost you anything more. We give away the mobile clients. So the key thing here is that you need to make what we call geo-aware augmented reality. You got to know about location. You got to have the ability to do interesting manipulations on 3D models. You got to be able to create 3D out of 2D. And these are all things that we've been working with for many, many years. And so it just really brings it all together into a wonderful high value result. And so we're already seeing examples of customers taking data that's in whatever their enterprise geodatabases are and combining it with some other information and getting it out to the field. And we're expanding the ability of that AR to be able to tell you more details and information about what you're actually seeing and visualizing. And eventually we hope to even make it a tiny bit interactive. And so there's just a lot of great things and a lot of great examples. Elizabeth has just chatted out a log of, or a blog link to a number of these. And actually, if you go to the next slide, we get into some of the newest things that our team, especially Dimitri and Lena and the team, have been experimenting with. But what I find so interesting about these latest examples is the fact that we can take the data that's output from the amazing sensors that are in the mobile device, throw that up to FME running in the cloud, grind that up using algorithms we've had for years and years and years, like the contouring, Don, that you wrote when you were a young lad.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, many years ago. Yeah.
And bring it back in AR. When you wrote that, I don't think you ever imagined it would be overlaid on top of a drain thing to kind of tell you where there's problems with the drainage. That's an amazing combination or a synthetic result of combining all these things. And so the magic here is using a free LiDAR scanning app for an iPhone or an iPad. You get the result, and then you go into FME Data Express. You connect to an FME server where there's a workspace waiting for you that you've authored that accepts a LAS file, a LiDAR file. You send that up there. It does the grinding. It sends you back an AR file, and then FME AR on the same device fires up, and now you can see the results. So pretty amazing stuff. Elizabeth has tweeted out she's chatted out the two YouTube links. You can check those out later on. But it's just really, really exciting to see this result of combining all this technology and creating magic, and well, not just magic that's of high business value. It's one thing to be cool, it's another thing to actually have value, and this truly is having value.
Yeah, like these contours that Dimitri's figured out how to leverage the LiDAR scanner in the iPhone or the iPad, and you'd be able to detect road sinkage way before you would just visually walking around. So that's he has another one, Dale, with crosswalks where he can easily tell, so you can imagine a city worker now just goes and he scans things, and he doesn't even have to really do much work on site. He can just like take a few pictures, grab all this information, and then later they can look at, oh my goodness, hey, last time I was there, this road wasn't sinking, now this road's sinking. So it's really, really and the number of uses are just we're just starting to see them, and how this is going to improve facilities management for everybody. So right now, I guess the best device to view this is probably the iPad or a tablet. So
yes, that's right, a little bit bigger one. But I don't know if 2022 is going to be the year of the Linux desktop. That's been talked about for about 15 or 20 years, but it might be the year of the AR glasses. Although when I prepped this, you can see rumors all over the map. One that says that they're coming right away, and Don, you sent one that says they're 2 years away. But one way or another, these things, one thing we know for sure, just like the end of the pandemic is always one day closer than it was the day before, we're one day closer to whenever these AR glasses come, and we're excited to be ready to supply them.
Yeah. No, it's the whole AR thing is super exciting. And it's the perfect example of a new solution space that requires all kinds of data to make something that's really pleasing to the human eye and and the human brain, and reduce the cognitive load. And it's once this starts to get out there, it's going to take off. And we have clients in the field who are using it around facilities management, and it's just early days, but it is going to happen. And you can just tell the two major vendors are really investing in this technology. So it's super exciting. Yeah. And so the next thing is we want to talk about, we're seeing more and more of this, what we're calling agile enterprise integration. And what we mean by agile enterprise integration is the workload on your integration platform varies constantly as you pull in more and more of your business data processing and enterprise integration processing. And of course, some of the benefits save time. If you can have people be able to get access to the data quickly and make the tools they need quickly, then you're going to save them time. And in any organization, the most, the most valuable resource and the one that you want to make efficient is people's time. And when Dale and I talk and somebody needs a new piece of equipment or a new tool, it's a very short discussion, because if we can save them time, we know the cost of the tool is going to be well worth it. Again, people get access to the data, they're more productive, they're more efficient. Also, this whole thing of having integration workflows that are focused on just minimizing errors. We have lots of clients out there who they have people out in the field collecting data, and while they're in the field, they actually submit the data for QA analysis, and it can be done in real time and sent back. So, they don't have to go back later when they find out tomorrow when they submit the data that, so I missed some of the data, or some of the data is bad, or one of my sensors wasn't right. And so they can do it then. The other thing that data integration forces is standardized processes. And at SAFE, we're talking about this. We're really looking, as we grow, how we can scale the organization. So across all our departments, we're coming up with some standardized processes on how work is assigned, and people figure out what's important. And by standardizing the processes, you really get efficiency, and you really reduce costs and waste and things like that. And so at the end of the day, if your customer, could be your employee, could be the customer who's paying money, can get a better experience, they're happy, they're happier, they're going to have a better experience, and they're going to get more done. And last but not least, you need to make sure that your system can scale, because as the amount of data increases and the number of applications increase that you need to integrate, your system's going to have a bigger and bigger load on it. So here's just an example of one system. This is one we have running inside SAFE. Yes, this is Fme Server 2022 dashboard that now you get with the product. And you'll see on the bottom is a load over time, and you can zoom in, to various intervals. And I just zoomed in. You can tell on the dark one there, and you can make them. But anyway, you can see how the load on the server changes, and there's these real quiet periods, and then there's real big peaks. And an agile system, to get performance, you have to be able to handle the peaks. And and the point is that you don't want to do that by just purchasing the maximum number of engines. You could, but then you would have a lot of wastage. And so again, you would want to have this ability for the thing to really scale. And the types of automations that people are looking at, you have individuals. If you can save individuals time, so they might have a manual task that they do, and if you can reduce that manual task by having a nice quick automation, saving them time is going to pay back dividends. Take it up a level, and you might have departments who have these big monolithic applications. More and more we're seeing applications that are really strong in one area. So we have like Slack, and then we have Jira and Salesforce. So we have these different systems that are focused on particular areas, but of course they're more powerful when we can connect them together. So if I'm in Slack, it's nice if I get a notification from Salesforce or from Jira when something interesting happens, so I don't have to constantly be going back and forth looking for things of interest. And then of course at the highest level is pulling together all these large IT applications. So when you're thinking about automation, it's important to think about how can I save individual people time, how can I save departments time to make them more efficient, but then how can I serve the entire IT organization. And that last one's really exciting for us, because that's where we're really seeing growth, as people are looking at us compared to others and really starting to see the value of being able to have spatial spray across all of those. So, and on server, of course, we have this real-time event automations, which I can connect to sensors or IoT devices or logging systems or IT systems that are constantly outputting information. We have Fme Server Apps, which are abilities to put an interface on top of workflows and then and share them throughout your organization through a web browser, so the person using it doesn't even know there's an Fme server back there. And then there's data stream processing as well, which can be high speed, or it can be connecting applications together. So when one person enters a task in one application, they don't have to rekey in another one. Things are kept in sync. And then, of course, there's these periodic scheduled tasks. And of those four things, the top three, real-time event, user-driven, and then real-time data stream processing, the load on them depends on what's going on. So the first one, connecting applications, when the applications are busy, you're going to be doing more work. The second one, when your users go and start using applications, then your server is going to be busy. The third one is real-time data stream processing. Again, those are peaky. If you have one that's monitoring cars going in and out of a garage, for example, there's going to be very many times when lots of stuff's going on, and then huge quiet periods. And the only one that's really flexible is the periodic scheduled tasks. And again, we talked about this, but again, for this to support the agility is that simple CPU usage pricing model, where basically you have engines that are there, they pay for the work that's done, and to meet the peaks in your load. So yeah. And so the next one is real-time data streaming. We're seeing, and this is one of the big stories, in FME 2021, and we continue in FME 2022. And this is connecting real-time data streams. And we're seeing more and more organizations, particularly organizations with fleets, to be able to provide better service, to their customers. And so, yeah, so, examples are, web data. You might be getting real time from website visits, social media, IoT with 5G coming on. We're really, really excited about that. Real-time events, which are not necessarily high speed, which would be, real-time fire alarm, heat sensor. And then you have continuous streams, which are where are all my cars at any given time. And we're seeing more and more. I read an article that was talking about mining, and mining now they're looking at having, trucks that actually don't have drivers, so fully autonomous, trucks. And so clearly with a fully autonomous truck, you want to know where those trucks are, and so you're going to be, and other information about that truck. So you're going to have lots and lots of data. So we just see, a side effect of automation is more and more real-time, high velocity data streams. So yeah.
No, Don, I think, and I'm going to challenge Elizabeth there. I think that we did 2 webinars on this over the last year. If people are interested, maybe Elizabeth can chat out those links, and watch for us to do another webinar digging into how this all can be configured. It's amazingly easy to do powerful real-time processing, and so we'll do another one of those sometime in the next several months. But if you're interested in that, we had a couple of great resources from last year.
Yeah. And the exciting thing too is sometimes something might start out as, you're using it as just a real-time event, because maybe you get an update once every 2 minutes, but then as the system gets bigger and bigger and bigger, streams could switch to being high velocity, where maybe now you're getting an event every second or every 10 a second or something. And the nice thing with FME, of course, is it's exactly the same authoring process, so you can easily move from one to the other. The other thing we're seeing is, this whole notion of hybrid, and this is organizations that have solutions that run in the cloud and on premise. So we're seeing this where, particularly this probably was the transition to the cloud. More and more stuff was moved to the cloud over this pandemic. But we're seeing organizations, part of their strategy is, we're not just going to move everything to the cloud in one fell swoop. We're going to have in a controlled fashion. And so again, the question becomes, as we evolve to the cloud. So you want to talk about this one, Dale?
Yeah, just, even our own company, we already were highly cloud centric when the pandemic hit, but we've only gotten more since then. And really it allowed us actually to move from literally one day having 95% of everybody in the office to the next day everybody was at home, and mostly nothing changed. And so that was a huge benefit, and it's been recognized by many companies over the last 2 years or so. But you can see some of these other things, the elasticity, we make use of that ourselves to be able to build and test FME without having huge stacks of hardware that sits idle lots of the time. Some of the stuff near the bottom where we get into the container side of things, that also becoming more and more important for our major clients, and very, very conducive to work well in a cloud and elastic environment that cloud provides. And actually, the last thing I'll just touch on is the security, where our argument is that stuff that's cloud-based used to be, you'd be concerned about the security of that. Our argument at SAFE is that the cloud vendors have armies of people caring about security, whereas the average enterprise doesn't have the same number of eyes on the problem, and so arguably the security is higher. There was a great story that when Sony got hacked a few years ago, the parts of the company, of the information that didn't get out was the stuff that was in their cloud, that was in cloud platforms. The stuff that they had on-prem was what got out. So anyway, the security is not to be taken for granted.
Yeah. And the big thing that a lot of organizations are coming to realize is data gravity is a real thing. And with huge data volumes, you need the processing in your services to be close to the data. The closer you are to the data, the throughput goes up and the latency goes down. And so that's just why with hybrid organizations where they have it scattered, you need FME engines moved in places where it's close to the data, as well. Because where's the best place for your processing?
Well, it says there in blue, Don, really, it should be no surprise. You want it as close to the data as possible. And so, I know that early on, people that ran FME against SQL Server and Azure, that was a slow thing. We did work to improve the communication, but if you run that locally and you're using a database that's out there, you are paying a price for that latency in between. But if you can get your FME running on Azure, basically next door to where the database is, now you're cooking. And so we've seen people deploy in all of these environments and get great results. And that's really the goal that you want to be pursuing.
Yeah, that's right. And even when it comes to FME Cloud, we have multiple regions. And one of the big drivers there, of course, is if your data is in an AWS region in Sydney, Australia, then you want the FME server in the FME Cloud running there as well. There's data, governance issues as well, but generally, whenever you start up an FME Cloud, you need to think about where's the data and where are the users, and the better one is the one that's closer. Yeah, and when it comes to marketplaces, we also have marketplaces on Azure and Google as well. And again, it's the same thing that Dale just touched on. If your data is in Azure, then the best place to run your FME server or FME platform in case of these marketplaces is on the same data center in Azure as well as Google. So you're going to see us continually to have this two-process or two-pronged approach when it comes to cloud. We'll have FME Cloud continue to make that better. And then we're also going to engage all the marketplaces so that users have a choice where to deploy. So Armdale.
Yeah. So this last year we said this was our bonus topic. This year we made it into an actual one. It's one of these examples where a year has gone by and things did change and progress was made and we're on a journey. So the idea here of the ARM processor, it's gone from being in our mobile devices to being a serious compute engine. And why does it matter? It's because it uses less electricity to get the same work done. And so on the desktop, that means stuff runs cooler, stuff goes longer with the same battery. You don't have a fan roaring away. Don and I both were fortunate enough just before Christmas to get M1 Max. That's kind of tricky. And the thing that throws you off is you can't really tell what it's up to because you never ever hear that fan whip up, so you don't know. Did your FME stop running? Is Chrome doing nothing? And so it throws you off. But in a data center, there's huge advantages as well, and that results ultimately in lower cost to be passed on. And Amazon has what they call Graviton 2, and they got machines based on that ARM technology, and so we've been doing a lot of work experimenting with that. Now the thing is that FME itself has run on a wide number of platforms, so we really consider part of our core value that we offer customers choice, and that's an expensive thing for us, but it's a price we think is worth paying because over the years we've supported HP UX, IBM AIX, DEC Alpha,
Solaris.
Don, I know you're a huge fan of 32-bit DOS. Remember that? Um, and
Yeah.
so and so and Spark, of course, on Sun OS platforms have come and gone. And we recently, or for quite some time, it was only Intel actually that FME was running on, even though all that other stuff was kind of around, or that flexibility was there. But we've actually ported FME over to ARM using the Graviton platform on AWS, and we've done a bunch of experiments. For FME 2022, it'll be available as a tech preview as an installer. If you want to fire up your own ARM machine on AWS and run it, you can. One of our developers actually used the installer that we built on AWS and actually ran that FME on his Android phone somehow. We're not really advising people to do that, but it does work. A little crazy, but it does work. But anyway, we are excited because on the AWS side of things, Graviton 3 looks like it'll be a pretty compelling choice ultimately for this. Right now, our testing shows that for Graviton 2, if you're doing heavy duty work, for many scenarios, you aren't really saving a lot of money. There are some you do, but not all. But we think that Graviton 3 will change the game there. So that would be exciting.
No, it's super exciting.
And so
the number of transistors there, Dale, 50 billion. You
yeah,
know, crazy. So what are our results that you've seen on the Apple?
Yeah, so over the holiday, I was doing 6 million point on area. I don't know, there's about 100,000 polygons, and trying that on a few different situations on my old Intel Mac and on the M1 Pro. But right now, we're running an Intel built FME. None of these are with a native ARM compile. So it's, first of all, the technology to just run that stuff is astounding because it's just happening. So let's start on the let's go from the right. So this is the time that both CPU and elapsed. There's a bit of multi-threading going on. On the right-hand side, you can see we can get that job done in about 47 seconds of elapsed time on the Intel Mac. Right there where Don is going. Now, if we take that exact same job and we run the Intel FME on an M1, we're all the way up to 50 seconds. So wow, that's only like a 3-second elapsed time overhead. Oddly, the CPU is much higher, so the cost of the threading in the emulation on the Intel must be fairly high, is what I'm thinking is going on there. But hey, as a user, I don't care. And actually, I never heard the fans run. Now, the thing that blew me away is that with Parallels, I could install Windows 11 for ARM on that Mac, and then I can install the Intel Windows FME and run it, and it just worked flawlessly. So it emulates everything, works flawlessly, and yeah, it takes fairly long. You pay a price for all those layers, but nonetheless, it tells me that that actually Windows ARM machines are likely to be a thing, and that your old Intel stuff is just going to run. And so I think it's a kind of an interesting thing to watch. Where's ARM going to go in the next year? What kind of hardware is going to be out there, Windows and Mac, that's going to use this? And lastly, I can't wait to see what a native ARM compile will do for us on an M1 Max Mac. That's coming later this year.
Yeah, I mean, this is just amazing what's going on there. I mean, you know, historically, emulation or whatever we want to call this was orders of magnitude different, and now, you know, it's not, right? So really interesting. So yeah, so really exciting there, and I think that's our 7, Dale. So yeah.
Yes. Let's wrap her up.
Yeah. So again,
yeah, the key thing to take away is that ultimately, as a business, as an organization, you need to maximize that overwhelming volume of data that's coming to you, the value from that, and ultimately get yourself to be making better decisions so you can win. And we hope that we can play a piece of the solution for you, play a role in the piece of the solution for you as you consider this, particularly if there's a little bit of location in there, which there very often is.
Yeah, absolutely. Because at the end of the day, you know, it's all about you being able to, you know, leverage all your data and all the different types of data you have at your disposal. And so that's really at SAFE what we're really working on, coming up with new ways that you can work with it all. And do share with us if you come across new data types or new data sets that you want to work with or you see trending for you. We love what we do. We have an amazing, passionate team who just loves to take FME to the next level. And so with all these things, we always think this is a beginning, and not an end. So I think with that, it's a good time for a poll. So do you want to run this poll, Elizabeth?
Here we go.
Yeah.
So vote early and vote often, folks.
This is great for us too, as people vote and let us know. Helps us. We're always looking for input from the data community at large on where they see their things that are most impactful, and the new types of data that are growing within their organization. So yeah.
Oh, the poll results are pouring in now.
Give everyone a few more seconds here. Get your answers in.
Awesome.
Okay, and I will close this poll and we can share the results here.
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
yeah, look at that. Yeah. Growth of spatial data. So spatial data continues to grow with real-time data streaming and enterprise integration. So
yeah.
No, great. So
we didn't talk at all, Don, about that whole side. Another aspect of the enterprise is the ability to collaborate on solutions, and that's something that we're working hard on inside of FME as well. So anyway, thanks so much for those insights, everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And with that, yes, a big event coming up, Dale.
Yep, August 21st, 26th, come to Vancouver, enjoy the nice clean air, and we should have a wonderful time together in the twice delayed, but now we're going to go for it conference, which is all about data integration. So we're very excited about that.
Yeah. So you can see the title of the conference, Peak of Data Integration. See the beautiful facility. The conference is in that facility. And it's just an amazing, 3 or 4 days. So we really do want all of you to come. So register now. And if you have a great story that you'd love to share, we would love you to be able to do that. And so, yeah. So, and also check out our webinars and that are upcoming, and they're on-demand webinars, safe.com/webinars. Lots of great data topics there from the past, and and also the future. So please do that. And last but not least is claim your community badge. Today's code.
Yes.
FMWC. Yeah.
There you go. So I think with that, we'll thank you so much for tuning in, and really appreciate all your interaction. Don and I can hang around a wee bit, but if you got to run off, please do. We may just take a quick peek at the questions for those that want to hang around. But otherwise, thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you, everybody.
Thanks all.
So there was a very interesting question here at the end, Don, which I think we have a great answer for. I don't know if you see that last one from Sean, who asks, is there any plan to move to an FME cloud type model, pay per use for on-prem? And Don, I think that what is called dynamic engines is effectively that, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. So for server, you can purchase simply pay by use, so you pay for the CPU time. So yeah, so Sean, I'd be happy to talk to you about that. We're seeing great growth in that. So particularly organizations that have getting started, or they have variable workflow. So yeah.
I think Sean also asked about all these great performance improvements. Do you have to do some work to take advantage of them? Some of them, if you just open up your old workspace, some things will just be faster, but unfortunately other things, it may have introduced changes in the order of data processing, and so we do require you to intentionally upgrade those transformers. Right now, that's a little bit of a click fest. You can get to upgradable transformers and do some clicking. We have a design in mind that we hope we can roll out in the near future to let you do bulk upgrades. Yeah. But that's I guess a cup half empty or half full answer, depending on your perspective.
Yeah. And somebody mentioned they're interested in mobile sensors and cloud processing, and so do reach out to us and let us know exactly your challenge, and be happy to help. Lots of work going on in the whole real-time sensor, thing. And there are a few webinars that Dale talked about, but if you have any questions, please do reach out directly. Yeah.
Hey, Don, that Paul's question about having an FME server that can basically have some parts in a cloud and some parts on-prem. Do you call that like a distributed deployment, or do you have a thing like that?
Yeah, we have that inside of SAFE. At this point, we have not productized it, but that is definitely on the roadmap. And the idea there would be you could have your FME server, core or brains, whatever you want to call it, on one site, and then you'd be able to have engines distributed across different locations. So the engine itself could be close to the data, so that's something that would just down the road. Yep. Yeah.
So Paul, if you'd let us know, I'd be curious to know what your scenario would be there, and also what cloud platforms you'd be looking to do this with. Yeah. But that's a really interesting one. Thanks.
Yeah. So.
And Herman brings up the issue about FME, basically upgrading FME server in place. And we know that the team is wrestling with that one for sure. It's a hard problem though, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. So it's one we've been slowly making changes under the hood to make that possible, but that's a big one. Yeah. And it doesn't, if you're running in containers, of course, it doesn't hit you, but if you're running on Windows, which a large portion of our users are, then that is an issue for sure. So
yeah. All right.
Awesome.
Well, Elizabeth, should we make like a tree and leave?
Yeah, that sounds like a wrap. If anyone has a couple seconds, we do have a webinar survey that will launch at the end. It's just 4 multiple choice questions, and we'd love to hear your feedback.
Great. And thanks everybody for attending and for your time. And please do keep the communication going. It helps us be better, and we love to know how we can be better to work with you even better. Yeah.
Yes. Thanks so much, everybody, and Happy New Year. And here's hoping for a great 2022.
Absolutely. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Thanks all. Bye for now.